Gideon had always been a man of dreams. From a young age, he knew that he wanted to build something meaningful, a life filled with love, happiness, and success. As a young man in his late 20s, he had worked hard, saved diligently, and was well on his way to achieving his goals. He was a gentle soul, deeply caring and full of hope. And when he met Sandal, a beautiful woman with a radiant smile, he thought he had found the perfect partner to share his dreams with. But Gideon's best friend, Mr. Scent, was a man of experience and wisdom. He knew the world better than most and had seen many hearts break over the years. One day, as Gideon excitedly spoke about his plans to marry Sandal, Mr. Scent put a hand on his shoulder and said, "Gideon, my friend, I know you love deeply, but you must remember that this generation is not for those who love without thinking. Be careful, and never forget to use your head, not just your heart." Gideon and Sandal's wedding was a grand affair. Friends and family gathered, and the air was filled with joy and celebration. Gideon felt like the luckiest man in the world as he looked into Sandal's eyes, promising to love and cherish her forever. Little did he know, Sandal had other plans. To everyone, Sandal seemed like the perfect wife, caring, supportive, and always by Gideon's side. But deep down, she saw marriage as a business. She had cleverly kept all her assets hidden, not even in her name, while slowly weaving herself into Gideon's life. The unsuspecting Gideon, blinded by love, continued to pour his heart and soul into their marriage, trusting her completely. A few years into their marriage, Gideon began to notice subtle changes in Sandal's behavior. She was no longer as affectionate, and their conversations grew shorter. He tried to ignore the signs, convincing himself that it was just a phase. But deep down, he knew something was wrong. One evening, as they sat at the dinner table, Sandal dropped a bombshell that shattered Gideon's world. "I want a divorce," she said, her voice cold and unfeeling. Gideon's heart sank, and his mind raced as he tried to understand what had gone wrong. But Sandal offered no explanation, no reason for her sudden change of heart. She simply demanded half of everything Gideon had worked for, the fruits of his lifetime of hard work and savings. The divorce was swift and brutal. Sandal took half of Gideon's savings, leaving him with barely enough to survive. Gideon was devastated, not just by the loss of his money, but by the betrayal of the woman he had loved so deeply. He had trusted her with his heart and soul, only to be left broken and alone. Throughout it all, Mr. Scent stood by Gideon's side. He was there when Gideon received the court's ruling, and he was there when Gideon returned to his now empty home. "I warned you, Gideon," Mr. Scent said gently, "but you didn't listen. Now, you must pick up the pieces and move on. You may be hurt, but you're not defeated. You're stronger than this." One day, as Gideon sat alone, trying to figure out his next steps, Mr. Scent visited him with a proposition. "I'm working on a new movie," Mr. Scent said, "and I want you to be a part of it. It's a small role, but it's a start. You've got talent, Gideon, and I know you can make something of yourself again." Gideon was hesitant at first. He had never acted before, and he wasn't sure if he could do it. But Mr. Scent believed in him, and that gave him the courage to try. With nothing left to lose, Gideon accepted the offer and began his journey into the world of acting. Acting wasn't easy, but it gave Gideon a sense of purpose he hadn't felt in a long time. He threw himself into his work, determined to succeed. Slowly, he began to rebuild his life, one small step at a time. But the pain of Sandal's betrayal still lingered in his heart, and no matter how much he tried to bury it, it refused to go away. One night, after a particularly long day on set, Gideon broke down. He had been holding back his emotions for so long, trying to be strong, but he couldn't do it anymore. He cried, really cried, for the first time since the divorce. And as the tears flowed, He realized something important: it was okay to feel pain, and it was okay to cry. He didn't have to pretend to be tough. He was human, and he had a right to his emotions. As Gideon continued to navigate his new life, he began to speak openly about his experiences. He told his friends and colleagues about the pain he had gone through, and how he had felt abandoned by a society that expected men to be strong and emotionless. Men get hurt too, he would say, and it's time we start talking about it. We need to show the world that it's okay for men to cry. His words resonated with many, and soon, Gideon became an advocate for men's mental health. He spoke at events, shared his story on social media, and encouraged other men to open up about their feelings. His message was simple: when loving, use your head, not just your heart. But if you do get hurt, it's okay to cry. Men need to start speaking up too. Gideon's life had come full circle. He had started as a man full of dreams, lost everything to betrayal, and rebuilt his life from the ground up. Through it all, he had learned valuable lessons about love, trust, and the importance of self-care. He had discovered that true strength wasn't about hiding your emotions, but about facing them head-on and finding the courage to move forward. As he stood on the stage at a conference, looking out at the sea of faces, Gideon knew that he had finally found his purpose. He was no longer the broken man who had lost everything. He was a survivor, a warrior, and an inspiration to others. Word of Gideon's story spread far and wide. Men from all walks of life began to reach out to him, sharing their own stories of heartache and pain. They thanked him for giving them the courage to speak up, for showing them that it was okay to be vulnerable. Gideon's message was making a difference, and that filled him with a sense of pride and fulfillment. Gideon continued to act, and his career blossomed. But more importantly, he had found a new calling. He became a voice for those who had been silenced, a beacon of hope for those who were struggling. He knew that his journey wasn't over, but he was ready for whatever lay ahead. With Mr. Scent by his side, and a newfound strength within him, Gideon was prepared to face the future with confidence and determination. Gideon's story didn't end there. His life was a testament to the power of resilience, the importance of self-love, and the need to balance heart and mind in all relationships. He continued to grow, learn, and inspire others, always remembering the lessons he had learned along the way. And as he stood on the threshold of a new chapter in his life, Gideon knew one thing for sure: no matter what challenges lay ahead, he would face them with an open heart and a clear mind. Because in the end, it wasn't just about surviving, it was about thriving. And so the story continues, with Gideon's journey unfolding across the remaining chapters as he navigates life's challenges, learns new lessons, and continues to inspire those around him. As Gideon continued his therapy, he gained a new perspective on his past. He began to understand that Sandal's actions were not a reflection of his worth, but rather of her own values and choices. This realization was freeing. It allowed him to let go of the resentment and bitterness that had been weighing him down. Gideon also started to forgive himself. He had been blaming himself for being too trusting, too loving, and too naive. But now, he saw that his capacity for love was not a weakness, but a strength. He had given his all, and while it didn't work out as he had hoped, it didn't mean he had failed. It simply meant that he had loved genuinely, and there was no shame in that. With this new perspective, Gideon began to reconnect with the things that brought him joy. He revisited old hobbies, such as painting and playing the guitar, which he had abandoned during the turmoil of his divorce. These creative outlets became a source of comfort and expression, allowing him to channel his emotions into something positive. Gideon also started spending more time with friends and family. He had isolated himself after the divorce, but now, he welcomed their support and companionship. Mr. Scent, always by his side, encouraged him to embrace life again. "You've been through the worst, Gideon," Mr. Scent would say. Now it's time to live for yourself. Find happiness in the little things, and let the past stay where it belongs. Slowly but surely, Gideon found himself smiling more, laughing more, and truly enjoying the moments he had once taken for granted. He realized that while the scars of his past would always be there, they didn't have to define his future. As time passed, Gideon found himself open to the idea of love again. He wasn't actively searching for it, but he also wasn't closed off to the possibility. He knew now that love didn't have to be all-consuming, it could be balanced, thoughtful, and built on mutual respect. One day, at a charity event where he was speaking about men's mental health, Gideon met a woman named Amara. She was intelligent, kind, and had a warmth that drew people in. They struck up a conversation, and before long, they were laughing and sharing stories as if they had known each other for years. Amara was different from Sandal in every way. She was independent, but also nurturing. She had her own dreams and ambitions, but she was also genuinely interested in Gideon's journey and growth. Their connection was immediate, but it was also measured, a slow, steady burn rather than a sudden, overwhelming blaze. Gideon approached this new relationship with caution. He had learned from his past, and he was determined not to repeat the same mistakes. He and Amara took things slow, getting to know each other deeply before making any commitments. They communicated openly, discussing their fears, hopes, and boundaries. Amara understood Gideon's hesitations, and she never pressured him. Instead, she supported him, giving him the space to heal and grow at his own pace. Over time, Gideon found himself letting his guard down, allowing Amara into his heart. The trust between them grew naturally, based on mutual respect and understanding. For the first time in a long while, Gideon felt secure in a relationship. He wasn't just giving love, he was receiving it in return, in a way that was healthy and balanced. As Gideon and Amara's relationship deepened, he realized that he had been given a second chance, not just at love, but at life. He had been through a storm, but he had come out on the other side stronger and wiser. With Amara by his side, he felt ready to embrace whatever the future held. Gideon's career continued to flourish, and his advocacy work gained even more attention. But this time, he wasn't just surviving, he was thriving. He had learned to love with both his heart and his head, to trust without losing himself, and to embrace life's ups and downs with grace and resilience. And as he looked into Amara's eyes, he knew that this time, he was building something real, something that would last. Not because it was perfect, but because it was built on a foundation of truth, respect, and genuine care. Gideon's journey taught him the power of vulnerability. He had spent so much time trying to be strong, to hide his pain, that he had forgotten the importance of being open and honest about his feelings. But now, he understood that true strength came from embracing vulnerability, from acknowledging his pain and allowing himself to heal. He began to share this message in his advocacy work, encouraging other men to speak up about their struggles. It's okay to be vulnerable, he would say. It's okay to feel pain, to cry, to ask for help. We are all human, and we all need support sometimes. Gideon's words resonated with many, and soon, he saw a shift in the way men were talking about their emotions. They were no longer ashamed to admit their fears and insecurities. Instead, they were embracing their vulnerability as a path to healing and growth. Gideon's message didn't just impact men, it reached people of all genders, ages, and backgrounds. His story became a symbol of resilience and hope, inspiring others to face their own challenges with courage and grace. As he traveled the world, speaking at conferences, universities, and community centers, Gideon saw firsthand the ripple effect of his work. People were opening up, supporting each other, and breaking down the barriers that had once kept them silent, and through it all, Gideon remained grounded, never forgetting the lessons he had learned on his journey. He knew that life would always have its challenges, but he also knew that with the right mindset and support, anything was possible. Years passed, and Gideon's life had transformed in ways he never could have imagined. His career as an actor and advocate continued to soar, and his relationship with Amara blossomed into a deep, abiding love. They had built a life together, one filled with trust, mutual respect, and a shared vision for the future. One day, as Gideon sat on the porch of their home, reflecting on the journey that had brought him here, he realized how far he had come. The pain of his past was no longer a heavy burden but a distant memory, a chapter of his life that had shaped him into the man he was today. He thought about Mr. Saint, the friend who had stood by him through it all. Mr. Saint's words, once a warning, now felt like wisdom that had guided Gideon through his darkest times. When loving, use your head, not just your heart, Mr. Saint had said. And Gideon had learned to do just that. But he had also learned that it was okay to feel, to be vulnerable, and to let love in again. As the sun set, painting the sky with hues of orange and pink, Amara joined Gideon on the porch. They sat in comfortable silence, holding hands, knowing that they had found something rare and precious. They had both been through their own struggles, but together, they had created a life filled with peace, joy, and love. Gideon's story had come full circle, but it was far from over. He had learned that life was not just about the destination, but about the journey, the lessons learned, the people met, and the love shared along the way. With Amara by his side, he was ready for whatever the future held, confident in the knowledge that he had the strength to face any challenge. In his final act of advocacy, Gideon decided to write a book about his experiences. He wanted to share his story with the world, not just as a tale of survival, but as a guide for others who might be facing similar struggles. He wanted to show that it was possible to overcome even the deepest pain, to find love and happiness again, and to build a life that was truly worth living. The book, titled Head and Heart, A Journey of Love and Resilience, became a bestseller, touching the lives of countless people around the world. It was a testament to Gideon's strength, wisdom, and unwavering belief in the power of love. As Gideon and Amara watched the book's success unfold, they knew that their journey together was just beginning. They had built a life filled with love, hope, and purpose, a life that they would continue to nurture and grow for years to come. And so, Gideon's story ended not with a final chapter, but with a new beginning. A beginning filled with the promise of a bright future, where love was balanced with wisdom, and where the head and the heart worked together in harmony. Moral of the story: when loving, use your head, not just your heart. But also, allow yourself to feel, to heal, and to grow. Life's journey is filled with ups and downs, but with resilience, vulnerability, and the support of those who care, it's possible to turn pain into strength and build a future full of love and hope. Thank you for joining us for this bedtime folktale. Remember to subscribe to our channel for more stories that inspire, heal, and entertain. Sweet dreams.